Hey there, we've got the full moon in Sagittarius taking place on the 31st of May 2026. It's also a blue moon, which means it's the second full moon of this month. And it's the only second full moon there is, or blue moon, in this year. In fact, they're incredibly rare. They happen every 2 to 3 years. The last one was August 31st, 2023. The next one is going to be December 31st, 2028. So these are rare full moons. Now, whilst that sounds like it's something astrological, it's really not, because it's just based on the fact that we've got a calendar month versus a lunar month. The lunar month is ever so slightly shorter than our calendar months. And if we still had a lunar calendar like some other cultures do, this wouldn't occur. Anyway, that aside, some people do find the blue moons, seeing as they're so rare for them to show up within an actual calendar, they are seen as days with extra manifestation power. So if that's your thing, this is the one for you this year or for the next couple of years. So this could be very powerful from that perspective. What I'm going to do, though, in this short video is look at the planetary picture leading up to this full moon, like what aspects are going on, what have already come into culmination and are slightly easing off now. They're called separating. You'll see actually on my slides, I've got them up right from the beginning today. There are lots of aspects that have got an S next to them. That means we've already felt the perfectness of them. We've already felt them exactly, and they're starting to ease off. And you'll see next to some of them, they've got an A, meaning that we're coming into these aspects are applying. They're not quite perfect, but they're absolutely building. And so with this full moon, I'm going to be talking about the nature of full moon in Sagittarius, first of all, a little bit about the other aspects that are coming into this. I will also talk about the two Sabian symbols. So the Sabian symbol for the full moon in Sagittarius, and also the Sabian symbol for the sun in Gemini, because those Sabian symbols are very helpful. Now, I always have a look at Linda Hill's Sabian symbols, partly because they're so accessible and they're absolutely free to use, and you can go to her website and it's really amazing. You might, if you followed my channel for a while, you might have seen I've interviewed her a couple of times about her Sabian symbols. I really recommend them, and I absolutely recommend her book. They're very helpful. Essentially, there are 360 degrees in every circle in the whole zodiac, and there's one channeled message per degree. And so that's what I'm looking at. But that aside, Linda's Sabian symbols, I think, are really relevant. I use them sometimes with my clients I meet on a monthly basis, or clients that I've worked with before. I usually explore other things other than just the exact astrology. And I know in my practice that when we use the Sabian symbols, something really magical occurs. We get some extra definition, some definition that maybe the client was aware of that I would never know. And yeah, there's something really that almost takes us outside of time and space altogether. It's like those, how the hell did you know that kind of moment? And so that's why I've put the Sabian symbols in. And in fact, I do that every time I look at a new moon or full moon or an eclipse. So I will be looking at that. And then finally, I'm going to have a look at some of the asteroids that are working in alignment with this particular full moon. So this full moon is at 9 degrees 56 in the sign of Sagittarius. And obviously the sun is exactly opposite at 9:56 in the sign of Gemini. But what other things have we got going on at 9 degrees or 10 at push? And so there's quite a rich seam of stories when we get to the asteroidal level. It's really quite amazing. So welcome to this session. And my name's Louisa. If you're new to this channel, welcome. The whole reason I do this is to help people like recognize how easy astrology can be, and also to recognize that we might be able to see the patterns. We don't necessarily have to use them. We can sidestep them. We can observe them. I think sometimes having an awareness of what might be coming up, we get to see our life from another lens. Ultimately, I just want this to be as practical as possible to help you as much as possible. So it's with that I'm doing this. So let's get cracking. So I'm going to start just by building this picture aspect by aspect and talking about what this means. So you'll see here, I'm just highlighting that there's an opposition from the sun to the moon. And that's what happens. That's our definition of a full moon. Right now, as I'm recording this, the moon is still in Libra. I'm recording this on Thursday, the 28th. And by the time we get to the 31st, the moon will have moved around here and come into to an exact opposition with the sun, and that's our definition. Now, the moon in Sagittarius is actually seeking a lot of freedom. The sign of Sagittarius is, and I am a Sagittarius, so I feel really uniquely qualified to talk about this. The sign of Sagittarius is a philosophical inquiry. People with a Sagittarian energy tend to be optimistic, tend to be hopeful, tend to really want to explore things at a much bigger level. And we want to go zooming into the future. The moment we've got an idea about something, we really are quite enthusiastic and we want to follow up on that idea. So it really creates this energy of freedom and the freedom of thought, the freedom of belief. If you think of the centaur, it's half man, half beast. I don't want to call horses beasts. The centaur, if you think of a horse, if a horse is held back when it's reined in and tied up and stuff, a horse isn't necessarily happy. A horse, the moment it wants to move, it will absolutely run for the hills, and it will run off in the direction that feels safe and also free. And there's this sense of adventure. They're not looking back. They're just off. They know their direction. And so the Sagittarian energy is absolutely about adventure. We get a sense of where our truth lies. And there's also this element of questing, the great quests where there's something to explore, something to do, maybe something that feels really good and feels like the right thing to do. There is a bit of a moral undertone here with the Sagittarians. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter, whilst he was actually quite a colourful character, Jupiter also is one of the planets in our solar system that really deals with faith and our belief systems and that sense of trust and really wanting to trust in something bigger than us. And so I really get that this is a real sort of Pollyanna energy. We're wanting to trust in the nature of the universe. We're wanting to trust in God. We're wanting to trust in the glorious nature that we see around us. Yesterday, we went out for a rare family day, and someone was asking me what my favorite part was. And it was sat in the car next to my husband, the kids in the back. But my favorite part, and this is what I need to do if ever things get a little bit too much, feel good astrology central, I have to get in the car and be taken on this journey. Portugal, where we live, it's got these beautiful hills and valleys, and I can see like this panoramic view, much like the horse wanting to zoom off in one direction and kind of see that there's so many different possibilities. And for me, that open vista and the sky, and where the sky meets the earth, to me, that's the magic. That's the thing that absolutely inspires me. So Sagittarius is a sign that wants to feel utterly free, utterly inspired. It's considering the nature of things, considering the truth of things. It's very philosophical, very faithful in terms of belief systems. And there's a sense of wanting what feels like the right thing, the right outcome. And they're not going to hold back. And so this is a full moon. And at the time of the full moon, we're often in rebellion against something. The moon and the sun are completely pulled apart at this moment in time. And the sun is always setting the overall narrative. It's really describing what's going down. And the sun is in Gemini, which is a lot more local as opposed to being far out with that Sagittarian theme. The Gemini theme is a lot more, it's less like big vision and more like, oh my God, there's that over there. There's this over here. This is exciting. And it's very much about consuming lots of ideas, and they will like to feast their eyes and their ears, and they will like to see and feel and hear all sorts of different things. The Mercury energy is an energy that is looking for inputs all the time. And so at the moment, we've got this kind of real need for inputs all around us. And it can be a time when our social narratives become really strong for us, and we feel a real pull from our local environment, our work friends, our families, our neighborhoods, what the locals think. It's a time when we come into a social cohesion rather than fight with things. And yet with the moon over here, our inner nature is saying, screw that. Screw the social narrative right now. I'm off. There's that journey over there I want to do, and it feels like I'm being tied down a bit. And so this is a particular full moon that when it comes around, it's signaling it's time to get free. Like, where are you feeling bound and trapped and caught? Because this full moon is encouraging you to break free of all of those reins, break free of anywhere where you're controlled, and to go off in your own direction. So it can bring up some really exciting stuff, but it can also bring up some carelessness. It can bring up a bit of a rush. It can bring up a bit of tactlessness for those lovely people who are there by your side supporting you all the time, and you suddenly go, sorry, I'm off. It can be a bit of a surprise. And I've done that. So yeah, this full moon is an interesting one. Now, I also think where it shows up in your birth chart, and I'm guessing, seeing as you're watching me, that you've already done your birth chart. If not, don't worry, you can easily do it. Go to www.astro.com and put in your time, your place, your date of birth, and your time, place, and date of birth, and it will bring up everything you need to know about your birth chart. If you can find out where 9 degrees Sagittarius lives in your chart, i.e., which house is it in? Is it in your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, right the way through to the 12th? If you can see where 9 Sagittarius is, that will give you a sense of where this is happening. Each of these areas is ruling a different part of our life. And if you notice in the 7th house, you could even go onto Google and say, full moon in my 7th house in Sagittarius, what does this mean? So there's lots of different ways you can find out more. But wherever 9 Sagittarius is turning up in your chart is beckoning you for some freedom, like it's crying out. And you might not hear it as an internal cry. You might just get this little whisper of, oh, I feel like I've got nowhere to turn, or I don't feel like there's much spaciousness around me. I don't feel like there's many possibilities. So it will have a very sort of different energy according to where it is. Now, I spoke about a lot of these last night in the Hangout. I've got a community on the school platform. It's skool.com/feelgoodastrology. So just go to www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. You can join it for free. When we do our group hangouts, you're very welcome as a free member to join us every couple of weeks. We talk about the full moon and the new moon and how it might feel in our charts. And I've looked at a lot of the positions, if it's in your 7th, for instance, your 8th, your 9th, your 10th. So if you're interested, you can absolutely look at that. Come and join my community and check it out. Anyway, that gives you a little bit of a sense of the underlying energy. So this is us feeling a little bit tense and tight with the narrative around us, and we're wanting to break free. We want a little bit of a breath of fresh air. We need some space. We need to move. We need to move far away. Now, you don't need to migrate necessarily. You might want to go for a day trip. But it's a time that when we are tied up on that day and we don't feel like we've got many options, that we might start to get a little bit more careless and frantic to break free, a bit like a horse that's bucking. It knows what it wants, and it's going to keep creating a bit of a diversion until it gets it. So let's add in some other things. So this is also, the full moon is also in an opposition to Uranus. Now, the moon will have just been exactly in opposition not very long before it goes into the full moon. But Uranus is a planet that brings up all of our desires to change. And Uranus is technological, it's surprising, it's shocking, it's quite spontaneous, it shows consciousness coming into us. And so Uranus is one of the planets in, I would say Uranus and Jupiter work very well together. They're quite good pals. Uranus is actually Jupiter's granddad, funnily enough. But Uranus really does want freedom, and autonomy is a big word, and independence. Uranus is very much in the air. It's very much about consciousness and channeled thought and sudden flashes of insight that help you to be more independent. Whereas Jupiter is a lot more about that sense of personal freedom and faith, actually in your real full physical body. So you've got those energies working hand in hand. So Uranus in the opposition to this full moon is asking you, where do you not feel autonomous in your life? Where do you not feel that you have the opportunity to break free of the confines of the thoughts that you've been educated into? And I say that because Uranus is in Gemini, and Gemini is a real educator. So Uranus right now is breaking us out of a lot of what we've been educated into. We're now needing to autonomously, independently re-educate ourselves at our own speed in the way that we want to be educated. So this is creating another sort of act of rebellion in many ways. So I really see those going hand in hand. We've also got what's known as a quincunx with Mars. Now, Mars is exact with this quincunx. It's also known as an inconjunct, by the way. It's a 150-degree angle. So if Mars came into the center and then we went out to the moon, the angle between them is exactly 150 degrees. And that counts for is like a level of tension, a level of frustration. Mars in Taurus is wanting to take action, to feel natural, to feel comfortable, to feel healthy, to feel strong, to feel vigorous. And Mars is really about survival. And so there's this real desire to feel alive in your own body, like really feel alive. And that's also adding into the full moon's desire to go on a quest of truth. It could be quite a physical journey if you're using this Mars, but really Mars is just showing us that our need to get out and about isn't necessarily in our minds. We might be physically doing something to feel a sense of health and vibrancy and to be able to take practical action. Now, we've also got, there's quite a few things that the moon is connecting to here. We've also got the moon in a trine to Saturn. Saturn's up here. And also in a trine to Neptune. So the moon is coming into a trine, an exact trine with Saturn, and it's just leaving an exact trine with Neptune. Now, if I quickly run through this, the Neptune moon energies are about imagination, fiery imagination here, because they're both in fire signs. Neptune and Saturn are in Aries, which is absolutely about just doing it, getting on with it, not sticking around to apologize, but just you feel something, you want to do something, you go and do it. It's not about fannying around, waiting for consensus or anything like that. These planets really know what they want to do. And so the moon here is really fired up and ready to go, because there's this feeling of spiritual knowing that you're going to take action on with Neptune here. So you might have some very strong spiritual views that seem to really ignite the moon's desire to have a philosophical quest. And then you've also got Saturn working with the moon. Saturn's quite grown up. I always think that our charts and all the planets within our charts are representing different sides of our personality. So you might have heard about the inner child. I'm sure you have. And the inner child, I would say, is very much a moon function. Or the younger you, the more vulnerable you, is the moon. Saturn could be the adult you, so grown up you that has learned through many conquests and ups and downs. And sometimes often that learning is quite painful. And it can also bring us much greater joy because we get good at doing things. And so the moon working with Saturn, to me, that's suggesting that your grown up you, your adult you, and your younger you are actually working together quite well. So if there's this younger side of you that absolutely wants to do something, there's a grown up side to you that thinks, yeah, that might be a bit rash, but actually I can see why that's useful. And so they start working together. To me, this is indicating that there is some level of togetherness and work, like a companionship. Things are going really nice. It's a sort of collaboration between Saturn and the moon. It's working nicely. It's giving you natural authority to follow what it is that you're excited about. Now I'm going to add in a couple of extra bits. We've also got Vesta and Pallas Athena also in a trine with the moon. Now Vesta is applying into actually what's happening is the moon is applying into a trine with Vesta. What I'm saying with this is a trine is 120 degrees, and all of these planets are ever so slightly, they've either overshot 120 degrees or they're just under 120 degrees. And there's a level of allowance, it's called an orb. And so these guys in between, they also tell part of a story, not a major part of the story, but it's still important to consider. So Vesta, she's the hearth. She's the warm fireplace within your body. She's helping you get fired up about something. She's helping you know your truth. And she's really about purity. Like sometimes people use fire and rituals to purify the space. Vesta is here to really help you be pure of mind. So if you are wanting to escape or to run away or go out or go wild and feel things really deeply, she's helping you to stay pure. You're not doing it from a place of hedonism necessarily. In fact, I would really emphasize that for other reasons as well, which we'll get to later on. Pallas Athena is also, she's strategic. She is a goddess of war. She's able to look at the calm female logic And so Pallas Athena is, very strategic. And so again, there's this sense that, yes, I'm going to be wild. I'm going to reconnect to something that feels really personal to me, that allows me to feel a sense of freedom, but I'm not doing it without having carefully thought about it. So in many ways, this is a cultivated freedom that's coming up with this full moon. And if you listen to this before the full moon, you really do have a sense of cultivation. You can think about it and think about what you're actually planning on doing on the full moon and think, oh, that's not going to work very well. But you might want to make some adaptations or think slightly differently about it. And then the next thing that I think is important is the moon's also in a sextile to Pluto. It's already had its exact sextile and the moon's just moving out of it. But there is this sense of transformation going on behind the scenes. And so whatever you're deciding right now is allowing you to transform and flower and blossom and open up into the fullness of you. So I think it's a good direction. Obviously, I'm not advocating for what you're doing. Like, you might, like, if you're planning on breaking free to rob a bank, I'm not giving you permission here. You are guiding yourself, and this is just helping you to make your decisions. There are some other things with the planetary picture, and I just want to show a couple of other things I think are still very relevant. So, for instance, the Sun and Uranus are working in a square to the North Node. Now, the North Node shows us what we're maybe experiencing a trial with, where we might get, sometimes you have a bit of a test in your life and you go round and round in circles and you're coming back to that test, whatever that test is for you, that thing that always gets you a little bit stuck. Right now, your identity is shifting, especially with Uranus so close to the Sun. And it feels like humanity's identity is shifting. And so anywhere where humanity's identity is shifted and it's creating, it's once our identity shifts, we see our life and our challenges through a new perspective. And so that's something that everyone's really party to right now. I think most people are realizing that what we thought humanity was and what humans are about and what our life is about and what a usual typical day looks like, that's all shifting. And there's a kind of cosmic reason behind that. There are lessons we can learn from what we're experiencing right now. So that's underpinning this. We've also got Jupiter in a square to Chiron. Now, Jupiter in a square to Chiron is really showing us where our expansion is happening and where it's reminding us of where we felt a bit vulnerable. So, when you open up a little bit, it can absolutely create havoc with that cultivated protection that you've created for yourself. So anywhere where you've got this protected space, Jupiter right now is saying, come on, let's break you free of that, and so there's this very delicate balance of opening yourself up to feel a little bit more danger, but in feeling some of the ups and downs in life, you'll actually get to feel a little bit more real. I can only explain it from my personal experience. And many years ago, I got really hooked on Prozac. And I was taking more than I was prescribed, and I managed to get some hooky Prozac online, which I think if you want to be able to do stuff like that, of course, there's always a way, especially with the internet. And I found myself taking a lot of Prozac. And then I realized at one point that I heard this little me inside say, I just want to feel again. Because what I realized was I'd created this false reality for myself where I felt really protected and insulated. And this is only my experience. It might not be your experience if you are taking Prozac or similar. But for me, I felt like nothing really touched me. I felt like I was wrapped in cushions, in pillows, and that felt really safe for a long time. But then there was this little part of me that just wanted to feel something. And that meant I wanted to feel upset. I wanted to feel sadness. I was ready to feel the grief that I'd actually been hiding from myself. And I also was ready to feel some joy as well. And so for me, coming off that, which I did in a way that my doctor didn't recommend, I went cold turkey. And I'm not advocating that. Again, I'm not a medicine woman. I'm definitely not a doctor. Please don't follow my examples. But for me, in my new truth, which was, I just want to feel again, that's exactly what I did. And I did feel again. And actually it felt marvelous for me. But again, that's not advice. That's just me talking my personal story. We've also got Mars and Pluto in a square. Now, again, when I was talking about Mars wanting to survive, these are survival stories we're going through right now. And if you've got a strong Scorpio, for instance, a Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon, Scorpio sun in your birth chart, or if you've got an angle in the sign of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, they're the two planets associated with Scorpio. They rule Scorpio. And so with your two rulers in a square right now, that's creating a sort of survival tension. So whatever is going on, I think leading up to this full moon, you already know what it is. It's a feeling that feels so real that if you let go of it, something might happen. It feels a little bit daring, but it could also be really exciting, really empowering. And finally, there is another scenario, and I mention this all the time, but we've got this very kind of perfect cradle energy. Now, right now, we've got Pluto, we've got Neptune, and we've got Uranus, and they're almost all equidistant from each other. By the end of July, we're going to have it extended, because by that time, Jupiter will have moved, and all of them will be at 4 degrees, 4 or 5 degrees, but they're all almost exactly at 60 degrees from each other. And then Pluto and Jupiter will be in an opposition. Now, this kind of astrology is, I think, very deep acting and is going to create a real change in consciousness around the world. These are 3 outer planets looking at how you control and survive and submit and accept. We've got Neptune that's really showing us where we're creative, where we are connecting, also where we might be going into forgiveness, really big themes of forgiveness and letting go. Again, a different kind of acceptance here. And then we've got Uranus, which is about our consciousness and our feelings of fairness socially. There's a real sort of social aspect with Uranus. It really brings the brotherhood of man up. But it's also exciting. It recognizes that if you've changed in your mind, then the world around you is going to shift. And so these 3 are working together beautifully in a way we don't often see. And then Jupiter's coming in as well. This is very rare. And this is a pattern we're already leading into. So whatever this full moon represents, and yeah, it's just a day and it will pass, but these moments I think are very strong. And then if you are somebody who believes, oh, it's a full moon, but it's a blue moon, it's a second, and this is rare, then it has extra import as well. So let's have a look now at Sabian symbols. So the full moon in Sagittarius, and this is Linda Hill's, her version of it. It always gets rounded up on her website. That's normal. So if you put in 9 degrees Sagittarius, it will always come up Sagittarius 10. That's to be expected. And this is the meaning. And so this full moon also has a resonance with opportunity. Now, this is a theatrical representation of a golden-haired goddess of opportunity. Now, I'd like to think of myself in that way, like I've got golden hair. I don't think I'm a goddess of opportunity, but I definitely talk about it a lot. So this is bringing in rewards, awards, acclaim, a sense of presence and charisma and beauty are all the promise of this degree. There will be offers that look too good to refuse, and they could be full of promise, but they should still be looked at carefully. It can be something of a reward for you, in which case it can lead to bigger and better things. You or someone closer to you or close to you could be seen as someone who can totally succeed, a natural talent. It may be the answer to your dreams, and indeed it may well turn out to be a grand adventure. Remember, that's a grand adventure that we're going on with this full moon, with a big reward. However, be aware of idle chatter with no basis in reality. So the important thing with this degree is to distinguish reality from the theatre. Feeling that the whole of your world is your stage, you're playing out a story, you're acting on impulses, dramatizations, opportunities that seem almost too good to resist. And of course, with these aspects, there's always a negative side that shows up. And so you might find that this brings up issues of shallow adoration, propaganda, constantly chasing things that come to nothing, judging people by their looks, false appearances, false opportunities. So it's interesting. This full moon could also bring up this sense of promise about opportunity that seems really good. And it really might be. And I guess it's important to tune in and to recognize if you're already playing a story leading you in that direction. So if you get a lucky break, but you've already been working consistently towards something, that really makes sense. But if something comes out of the blue, you might be thinking, oh, I wonder why that's reached me. Now, the sun is working in opposition to this, and the sun's degree at the time of the full moon is equally as important. and this sounds a little bit dismal actually, an airplane dives towards the earth as though falling. But is it? So this says this situation implies an ability to to be able to play with and defy gravity, with maintaining a sense of being in control and able to pull out of a difficult situation. Your situation may seem to be heading for disaster, but perhaps you can still be in control. And at the right moment, you'll be able to pull out of the nosedive and save the day. The question is, do you really have an adequate grip on the controls? Are you, or is someone else actively working against people's best interests? Imagine yourself regaining control, physical, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and pull yourself out of the nosedive. You'll become stronger, probably enjoy the experience, plunging into experiences without thought of ramifications, becoming conscious and being protected and saved at the last moment. Daredevil stunts, depression, shakeups. Now, again, there's always like a downside, and this would be refusing help even though disaster is imminent, and free falls, defying gravity and the consequences, emotional burnouts, neglect of physical realities, crashing and burning. So to me, these go hand in hand. There's an opportunity, possibly a golden opportunity, that really might make sense and really might help you move forwards. And it may also be what's required to pull you out of that nosedive. Something could absolutely turn around at the last minute. So to me, that feels really great. Now, in this last section, I want to have a look at the asteroids and other stuff, because I always think that there are other things going on and a much richer picture can emerge. Now, to get all this information, I always use serenu.com. And with serenu.com, you can put in the time, place, and date of birth. Serenu.com will allow you to find out where a load of asteroids, up to 1,000 asteroids for free. You can find out a load of different asteroids in your birth chart, or indeed in any chart. And so I always look up the chart for the full moon or the new moon or the eclipse or the ingress or whatever it is. And then you can find lots of different asteroids that are also at the same degrees. And so I did a search out of 1,000 asteroids to see what asteroids currently are showing up at 9 degrees, in particular through the mutable signs, so Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And if not in the mutable signs, where else are they showing up? And so these are the ones that came up mostly, and I want to share these with you. So the first one that came up is Varuna, a Hindu god. He's a trans-Neptunian object. What that means is he's out of our solar system, out beyond Neptune. And the trans-Neptunian objects are really impressive. They've got a very slow orbit. So it's not like it's moving super fast. Where Varuna goes is really sowing seeds for generational consciousness. Now, he is seen as a higher harmonic of Saturn. It does feel like what he says goes. There's a certain amount of oath and truth and karmic laws that Varuna is working with. And he wants things to be upheld. This is wherever Varuna shows up in your chart is showing where you might have great influence and a level of natural respect. It might show up where you're very serious about things and where you want things to work beautifully, and where the way you practice that part of your life is in alignment with karmic laws. So Varuna is here and he's working with this full moon. So to me, this full moon is really wanting you to go deeper on what you're really serious about, even if it means breaking free a little bit. So that's interesting. Now, I want to go next to Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena is showing up at 10 degrees in Aries. And so there's this lovely grand trine. Now, Pallas Athena, I mentioned earlier, she's good at recognizing patterns. She's very strategic. She's cool-minded. She's steady. She's very tactical. She allows us to see the next thing that we're moving on. Interestingly, she's in a conjunction with Saturn and Varuna, like a higher harmonic of Saturn. So these guys are really giving a lot of gravitas to this full moon. So any change that you're making in your perception and your direction at the time of the full moon, to me, it's supported by Saturn. It's supported by your life's evolution. It's supported by this feeling of, actually, it might seem sudden what I might be deciding. However, I've been thinking this through coolly and taking my time for quite a long time. This isn't something that's, coming up once in a blue moon, for instance. This is something that feels like, yeah, this is the right journey for me. So I get the feeling that we've got supports around us. And even if we are about to embark on something, we've got natural law and an observed reality that makes sense. So I like this a lot. Now, we've also got Amicus is in a conjunction with Pluto. It's a little bit wide. We tend to have much smaller orbs, but Amicus is suitably close to Pluto. Now, Pluto does represent our survival, and Pluto can show where we go to great lengths to control things, because we might fear that if we don't control things, are going to go badly for us. But Amicus is a centaur, so he's an asteroid, but a centaur-based asteroid. Amicus, he's really good at self-protection. If there's a ruck, he's going to get involved and he's going to save his ass. He really shows where he will go to extreme levels of power to protect himself. So he's got a lot of courage, but he's not necessarily a nice character. He will make sure he survives. And so that's also coming in here. So any changes that you might feel like you're wanting to change or make, with the full moon, they are supported by this very strong need to survive. And so I would say what you're planning right now is in alignment with your survival plan. Does that make sense? Hopefully. We've also got karma showing up in a semi-sextile to the moon. Now, semi-sextiles, I think, are helpful. They're not really big aspects, but karma showing up in Scorpio, I would say, is representing something very deep and something that is working at an unconscious level and a deep spiritual level, and also a level of survival. But karma here, I think, is really, to me, this is a reassurance that you're on a karmic path. Now, the last two that I want to talk about, these are the ones I'm most excited about. So we've got Astraea. She is the 5th asteroid. So she is known as asteroid number 5. Now, she was a goddess who lived with humans for many years, allegedly, during the heyday of humanity, when we were a lot more godly and a lot more beautiful and pure. And the other gods ascended. They went off to live separately from humanity. And Astraea stayed with humans for a long time, and she was the last one to. And she was adamant that she loved the humans, but over time, she started to get really upset with humans because humans weren't very pure, and they were hurting each other and hurting themselves. And so, in the end, she was the last goddess to leave the humans. But she did abandon us. She said, okay, you're on your own now. You're beyond help. I need to clear off. So what we get with her, and it was a huge choice for her, and she's honored in the Virgo constellation. But Astraea, she's a goddess associated with Virgo. She's associated with purity and fairness and justice. And she's also associated with that energy that doesn't want to give up on a reality and then later does, because it becomes impossible to hold that reality. So she's got staying power. And then we've got Diana. Now, Diana is the goddess of the hunt. She's absolutely related to the sort of moon energy, that she's tuned in to all of what's going on around her naturally. She craves wildness. She's got this sense of absolute independence and autonomy. She doesn't need a man to complete her. She doesn't need anyone to do things for her, because she can do them herself. She is a free spirit, and she will hunt what she needs to survive. She can protect herself, but ultimately she doesn't need someone to put their arm around her. She's absolutely free to make her own decisions. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because we've got this opposition, the full moon, which, as I mentioned before, is us wanting to break free from the confines of what we already know. And because we're breaking free, it's making us feel even more rebellious. And then we've got Astraea to do with purity and leaving a situation because it's got untenable for us. And we've got Diana, who's creating a sense of independence and autonomy. So I actually think anywhere in your life, if you know where your Pisces is, think, is my Pisces house feeling pure right now? Is it feeling honored? Does it feel like I need to be more independent? Do I need more autonomy? Because that is actually something that's also driving this moon, but can also help you understand why you might want to go wild right now. So that's where I'm going to draw this to a close. That's how I see the layout for this full moon coming up. So there's a lot there about coming into your autonomy, coming into your independence, going with boldness and wildness and following your own path. What has been taught is being unlearnt right now. What has been taught has maybe kept you safe and kept us all safe from a societal perspective, but where's it really leading us? Is it taking us into something that is enlivening and awakening, or is it a reality that we don't want anymore? So I do think that this once in a blue moon, full moon, has got some real strong energies. It's packing a punch. So I'm going to leave that there. Like I said, if you want to explore this within my community, then just go to www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. Have a wonderful full moon, and we'll catch up real soon. Bye for now.